All right, I'd like to call the zoning commission regular meeting to order for Monday, March 18th, 2019. Do you give a thumbs up? Okay. I thought she said we were up. We are lacking a quorum at this point, so what we're going to do is take a motion here to move one of our discussion items up. And handle that first, so if we want just
Sure, I'd like to make a motion to amend our agenda to
have an informal discussion.
informal discussion regarding off-site signage of Dorset Crossing.
And I
We
guess
do all in favor?
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Here's 1, 2, 3. All right, do we have, yeah, see how lucky you are?
I know.
You went from being last behind all these people to first.
Good sign, right? Oh, I said
Yeah,
Santa.
you can actually come to the podium there so you're on TV.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was not disclosed.
So if you would give your
We don't
name and
tell
address?
people.
My name is Heather Lemieux. I'm the property manager of The Point at Dorset Crossing, 55 Dorset Crossing in Simsbury.
Okay.
So we are looking for some sort of temporary signage on Route 10 202 Hot Meadow Street. If you're familiar with the site, we are set back very far from the main road on a dead end. So although we have a great, beautiful monument sign on our property, we get no drive-by traffic. We have permission from the landowner, Tony. I do understand that the master plan was approved with one sign, which kind of left us, the current property owners, with no options. So I'm not sure. I'm willing to see if there's any options. I have a mocked example of what it would look like to make sure it's nice, beautiful, tasteful. I would get Tony's approval. I have aerial shots showing location, how far back we're set, so on and so forth. It's become more needed now than it was, say, a year ago due to the increase in competition in the area. So not only do we have Aspen Green, Highcroft, the new ones at Talcott, Granby the other side, so we're getting people going to both ends and missing us.
Okay, staff here.
So part of the issue is they're looking for, it's twofold. One, it's off-site signage, and then two, because there's already a unified sign plan for the site, they're here just preliminary to ask, one, is the commission open to, if they were to potentially amend the pad to have an off-site sign, an additional sign up there. So Ms. Lemieux is correct, there is at the entrance into East Point, there is a sign that says East Point at Dorset Crossing. So what they want to do is put something out closer to Route 10.
Right.
To show people that they're there. There's a freestanding sign for the Dorset Crossing development. However, it says Dorset Crossing, it has no tenants on it. Because you have two development pads that are to the southwest on the other side of Saxon Brook, yet to be developed. And you also have the specialty housing, Reagan development. They're in the back behind the substation. So you have a lot of other users that are back there. So staff has met with Ms. Lemieux. We've had conversations about what are her options, and really the only option is to amend the pad and have additional signage. So she's here tonight just to get a preliminary read from the commission before she starts spending money on further designs, going through the pad amendment process, whether it's appropriate to pursue this. Because I didn't want her to spend time, money, and effort to something that is fruitless. And the commission may recall, we actually also discussed the potential text amendment. About a year ago, we had an application for off-site signage from the real estate groups for exactly similar issue where they had properties that were for sale, and they wanted the footers or corner signs to direct people to the parcel that's for sale. So this issue with off-site signage and real estate presence has come up in the past also as a broader discussion, which that application for text amendment was denied by the commission. So like I said, I didn't want her to spend that money and go through the public hearing process. In fairness to them, you know, the two things. One, either the regs have to be amended for the use that she's looking for, or two, the pad has to be amended.
What was temporary?
I mentioned temporary because there is potential for other businesses. Tony has spaces for lease and potential retail. I mean, I've been there 4 years. Honestly, the only thing that has come and gone was urgent care. So I'm saying short term, maybe 6 months. That way every 6 months we can review it again. It doesn't have to be this formal. I could come in. If a new business has come in and they say, hey, not fair, I want to sign, we would be more than willing to say, let's work together, whatever needs to be done. I understand you don't want 15 signs by the road. Right now there's just the one and we're the only ones really in need of it, yeah.
Have you talked to Tony about sharing that sign?
I have. His sign is not really shareable. He would have to completely take it down and redo it, and I don't think he's really interested in that. He's offered to have us like have something hang off it, but that was not allowed.
Do we know if he's at the max on his signs?
Freestanding.
The freestanding, he did maximize the signage. And like I said, this was, when the pad was first approved here, there was a very specific signage plan that was developed with it, it's a unified sign plan, et cetera.
Do we have any other history or properties to compare with this type?
Yeah, the only other one I can think of is Riverview. They have an off-site sign.
But their setbacks requirements.
The variance was actually, variance was granted for that, to have the off-site sign.
Okay, it's a good example.
What's the difference between East Point and Riverview?
Riverview didn't have any other sign. It wasn't a question of two signs.
No.
Right,
It was one sign.
that's it. And they're right, and there's no other tenants there, there's nothing
And they
else.
had no frontage on Route 10. Because that sign is actually.
But you're not thinking if you had one good sign out towards Route 10, you could eliminate the sign that you currently are.
I don't think we would do that just because no offense, it was so expensive. And it's like stone monument sign.
Do you have a picture of that one? Is this, the Dorset itself is wood though, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
He's gonna have this problem with any other tenant he puts into that pad.
Yeah, well, if you think of it, you have, like I said, the two development pads that are in the rear, and then you have 3 more out front that are.
And then he has the buildings that aren't rented, so
Right.
he really needs a directory sign, yeah.
Yeah.
The
And
problem is I don't think Tony has interest in that kind of signage when I asked him about that.
Right.
So I guess the question maybe staff, in fairness to the applicant, has to the commission, it sounds like you would prefer to see something more of a directory sign that would allow not just one user, but multiple on there versus having multiple freestanding signs.
Correct.
That would be my
serving this property.
preference, yeah.
Yes.
I'm not.
I agree too.
Yeah, no, that's
Because it would be
the
cleaner.
consensus here is that you get one sign, so I think we have to see what Tony's willing to do.
We appreciate it. So then offline, after this meeting, we will have to talk with Ms. Lemieux and possibly Mr. Giorgio about this issue and see if we can maybe come to a more reasonable approach to this dilemma that they have. We still will have to grapple with the off-site signage, but I think, you know, the option of following Riverview is a possible potential for them. But
Is it-
that's not for a discussion for tonight, that won't happen.
Would it be possible, and the only reason I'm asking this is because, say, 8 years down the road, we're still the only one that cares to have a sign. Would it be possible to do a single sign for us and then, like I said, revisit if there are businesses that come in and we could take it down and at that point do a directory? I just don't want to have this big blank directory with our little name. That's my thought.
To
tough part from zoning is, there really is no temporary.
Yeah.
Right.
It really should, the
Right.
commission takes only.
Once it's approved, it's approved.
Permitted,
Yeah.
so.
And if he did a directory and, you know, at this point, he just had you and even the comments he might put on it, he could then change
What's in the directory?
within the
So
directory
you
later
could
on, so if he
be
had 6
smaller.
other people come in,
Yeah, so
they
you could be 80
shrink
or
it.
100% right now, and then
Okay.
that could change down the line.
Would this be on top of his general Dorset crossing sign?
It would be a replacement of his general.
Which, like you said, yeah.
So I think we have direction now to
Yeah.
have this conversation.
Let-
And appreciate the
Let
commission.
staff help come up with a solution.
Okay, so we'll talk.
Thank you.
Okay, well, maybe we can't approve them yet, but can we review the minutes?
I'd advise you to take a
A recess?
10-minute recess as we're waiting for
Sure.
Joe to get here.
Okay,
It's
that
really
works for us.
can't do any-
You can't do any action. Okay, you in favor of taking a 10-minute recess?
Yes.
How about how about till 7:30?
7:30. just-
Okay. So recess until 7:30, so you all know when to come back. All right, thank you. Close enough?
Yep.
All right, I'd like to reconvene the zoning commission meeting, regular meeting for Monday, March 18th. First order of business at this point will be to appoint Joe for Dave Ryan. And then, okay, approval of the minutes is the second item. And I can see at least 2 items. One is line 14. I did not chair that meeting. The chairman actually did. And on line 135, it says the application is to be received by the 32nd month. And I think we probably meant the 3rd month. Or was it the 2nd month? Do you know which one it was?
It's 3. I think
Would
it's
have
3.
been March 4th.
It's 3-4, I believe.
All right, 3-4, not the 2.
I'll go back and check.
Hey, do you have anything, Dave?
With those changes, Kevin, I move approval of the minutes as they were submitted.
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, those minutes are approved, thank you. All right, I would like to entertain a motion at this point, though, to make another change to our agenda to add application 1916. It was a late submission, and we'll add it at the end of our meeting tonight. It's the application of GPF Drake Hill LLC for agent, the Flower Bridge
No, it's for the chamber,
for the chamber?
Yeah,
At their new location.
at their new location.
That's what this says?
yeah.
Yeah.
It, like you said, it just came.
Okay, I only stand corrected then, it's for, so it's Drake Hill LLC, but it's at,
Drake Hill
oh, the
LLC.
chamber's at the.
Moving to.
Okay. Okay, well, do we have a motion to add this to the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, so, moving along here, public hearing, application 1909 of Louis George, Esquire Agent, BMG Properties LLC owner for special exception pursuant to Article 10, Section E5 of the Simsbury zoning regs for reduction in the number of required parking spaces on property located at 560 to 566 Hot Meadow Street.
Good evening, I'm Lou George from Hassan George, I represent BMG Properties, and we're seeking a modification of the original parking plan that was approved by special exception in 2016. What we're looking to do is, based upon the present use, which has changed and I will explain in a moment, the required number of parking spaces should be reduced. That's the first part, and we're looking for the same reduction from the required number, the new required number, down the same amount, 4, down from 31 to 27. So let me just explain a little bit. Originally, the approved count was, the required number was 33 spaces. There was a request for a waiver of 4 parking spaces, which was granted to bring that the parking requirement to 29. And that was the plan, that's the way it stands at this point in time. After the initial approval, we were working with the state, given that this building is extremely old, it is within a foot or two of the right-of-way. So the parking that's in the front of that building has always been within the state right-of-way, and we've been working with the state to develop a lease arrangement, which is what they want to do with people that are using that right-of-way from an historic standpoint. They wanted to clean all that up. So as we were going through it, they were concerned with the perpendicular parking that was approved, as people may be backing out into Hot Meadow, which over time, Hot Meadow has gotten busier and busier. They wanted us to seek alternate arrangements. So we went through the process of figuring out how best to do that. They did suggest parallel parking. We looked into that. Brian Deno prepared the plans, which you have, which show 4 parallel parking spots in front of the building, as opposed to the 6 that were there before, that were perpendicular. 2 of those that are there now are handicap, and then 2 regular. The state has approved this. They've had this plan. They have said, okay. They're waiting for hopefully this approval, and then we're going to develop a lease arrangement with them for those spots. While this was ongoing, the owner had converted part of the building from the use, I believe it was office and storage, to a dwelling unit, which in fact, by doing that, lowered the requirement, because there's less parking requirements for a dwelling as opposed to the prior use.
Business.
Yes, business by 2. So the required under the new count is 31. We have, with this plan, we have 27 parking spaces, so we're looking for the same number of waivers, 4, so to reduce it from 31 to 27, whereas before it was 33 to 29. And the 2 reasons for doing that are the safety requirements that the state suggested we make, and the change in the use of that area. And I think it was the square footage is shown on here on the proposed. The amount was 4. The original amount was 4,464 square feet, and I think 500 of that was that one dwelling unit that was changed. So it's 500 square feet or so of a reduction. Oh, no, I'm sorry. The reduction is just about 500 square feet. Is that right, Mike? I think that's that was taken away from the business side and put into the dwelling unit. So with that, we're trying to solve 2 issues. One, make the dwelling unit to have that use approved, which we have to do this first, and 2, satisfy the state's safety requirement for the front area entering and exiting those spaces.
Okay, there's an error on the count here on this, as it says, parking shown as 28 spaces. There's only 27.
Yeah, we're seeking down to 27. If you look, there is one on this plan. There's a concrete pad.
Yep. back
Corner
here.
parking.
Yeah.
That's really was a loading area. He put that in there but we're not requesting that as a parking space. So we're looking to go to the 27.
Okay, at least aligns with the application. Questions?
I'm curious, it sounds to me like, well, I think you were clear in your comments that this has not been approved by Connecticut DOT.
It has. I have a confirming email last week from the DOT representative, Shandi Wong, who I've been dealing with. They went through their process, and they are fine with it, and now they're putting a lease together.
Okay.
We're waiting for this approval, that this parking, they would accept this to do their lease.
So the lease applies only to the front of the building?
Yes, yeah, just that area that's in the right of way.
Yeah, okay.
And you, you can see where that line is.
Yeah,
it's the line.
It's
Yeah,
listed, it goes right to the stairs. So that front area has been within the right of way forever.
Years.
For years. So they're trying to clean that up. And in working through the lease, they said they didn't want to do it with perpendicular parking, they want to do it with parallel. So when we showed them this, and they went through their process, and she got back to me last week.
Any other questions?
It's always been exciting to,
That's a great word.
Staff shows delineation of parking spaces in front of the building with the chief of police. As part of the DOT process, local traffic authority had to look at this. He had no objections to changing, going from perpendicular to parallel. He actually thought it
Safer.
was safer
Yeah.
condition versus what you're doing right now.
We've been talking about this for a couple of years with this property, so.
But the two things that change the game would be the negotiation with the state and then the introduction of an additional dwelling unit upstairs. That's above the liquor store.
Okay, on the motion to close the public hearing?
you want to
Unless
ask
the public wants to speak. Okay, you want to speak? Anybody else want to speak to this? Okay. A motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
In a second?
A second.
All right, Bruce is on a roll call. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We'll get back to that in a little while. All right, old business, application 1908, Lisa Foley, owner for site plan amendment for the addition of batting cages on the property located at 1603 Hot Meadow Street. Again, if you'd state your name and address.
Yes, Barry Wilson, 245 Nod Road, Avon, Connecticut. I'm here representing Lisa Wilson on the batting cages at Blue Fox Rock and Bowl. Basically, what we're asking is to put in 2 stations that would be next to the mini golf. About 50, they are 58 feet in length and 32 feet in width. There's no lighting, so I'm going without any lighting. The only change would be is that I would have to, would need a concrete pad, which I'm gonna carpet, although it's not required to, only because I'm gonna carpet it green to resemble a baseball field. And it also matches the green of my mini golf, which would be right next to it. No lighting application, because right now it's a kind of new venture for us, and we'll see how the day goes before we start thinking about, do we need to do it in the nighttime. Yeah,
I didn't drive up there, now having the map, to take a look at the sighting, but I can see it here. But what doesn't jump out at me is the building that provides ice cream, et cetera, snacks, is that still here?
yeah, yep.
How close is it to this structure, the
Oh,
cages,
it's,
the
well-
batting cages?
It's not, let me put my finger here. If you don't, you should have, they have the same amount I do. It's pretty far.
It's hard to read.
Okay,
It's kind of small.
so there's, there's, I would say before you get to it, it's gotta be, 50 feet. It's pretty far over there.
Great.
That's, we'll have picnic tables there like we do now with, for the mini golf and the ice cream. We put picnic tables on the other side and also in front of the mini golf. So it's not right next to it.
So,
Thank you.
how tall is the enclosure?
It's 13 feet tall.
Okay, and so you would have,
You have 2 batting cages, which would be the baseball players, their backs would be to the mini golf. They'd be hitting out towards Knott
okay,
Road.
it's backwards to what I thought.
Yeah, so it's an enclosed structure. Being in the golf business for 20 years, I know a lot about netting and what things do. Baseballs don't come out of the netting. But for us, what we need, believe it or not, and it works for the town, is I need the baseball player to not see the cars. So what we're gonna do, no Yankee fans in there, right? All Red Sox, we're gonna put a green wall there that's gonna be movable, but we'll put it there. But behind it, which we talked to the design, I'm gonna put hedges, nice hedgerow. And I also want to clean that area up anyway, so it's been in my plan to do, because it's kind of a little bit ragged in there now, and then I'll go from tall and then small ones, so that when you go by, you can still see the mini golf. So that's kind of the look I'll have right there. So the baseball players won't see anything, just the ball's coming out.
So where would this green barrier be? Inside or outside of the fence?
It would be on the back of the fence. Your ball's not gonna hit the green barrier.
All right, so it's on the
visual.
roadside.
What?
It would be on the road side of the fence.
Yeah, right on the other side of the fence, correct, yep.
Okay,
But
so
he-
what does the road see?
The hedges that I'm gonna put there.
And how tall is the board?
Well, the board will be about 10 feet tall,
And you're gonna get a 10-foot hedge?
pretty close.
Arborvitae?
Or 9, I'll get it 9 feet, 8
That-
feet, whatever the measurements are gonna
This is
be.
Route 10, no, there's no
that was in the
shrubs
plan.
there.
Did you?
I was gonna ask.
No.
So this came up at design review earlier, the board of reports. Design review gave a favorable motion on this application, but asked that a vegetated berm be provided in order to screen the view of the cages from Route 10. So what was discussed was an evergreen berm,
Right.
so it would be there along Route 10. This was, I would suggest if the commission is not comfortable with this, that you'd probably want details on this on what they want to propose, such as species and or height of the berm. Otherwise, I would say that you could condition granting the approval for development of plan for review and issuance by the zoning enforcement officer prior to the issuance of the zoning administrative zoning permit, for the proposed batting cages. But that would give a lot of discretion to the zoning officer on whether the screening is appropriate. The wall would not be considered a structure under your regs. So it's just a matter of how it presents itself from the road.
But let me just see if, I'm not getting clearly what the signal is from the DRB as to what they're trying to screen. Because if you screen just the area that the batters are hitting towards, and that the green monster will
Right.
obscure the cars, that green barrier is the short dimension when we look at length and width of the structure.
Yes.
So it runs back from Hot Meadow Street close to 2.5 to 3 times the width. So if you're traveling south to north or north to south, you're seeing the lawn walls.
No, you're,
Unless you're planting arborvitae along.
no, you're gonna see the cages. I want you to see what I want them to see was they're coming
Oh, is that what they said?
Right,
Yeah.
we're worried about what
I thought you
design
said they
review wants
wanted-
to see.
So
Right.
one thing too, let me back up. On the southern corner of the property, there is a berm, although it's overgrown right now. If you remember where the Welcome to Simsbury sign is, there is a berm there. It just needed some TLC. That's what Barry was discussing, that in addition to other site improvements that he's planning there, he was going to spruce that area up.
Okay.
So then what design review then started talking about is, as you're immediately getting to where the structure is, it's the visual impact right there. Because really, you'll have a limited exposure driving in from
Yep.
from Granby to see this. But you really, if you're driving towards Granby, you
Right.
won't see it till you get to the driveway looking in.
Because of the berm.
Right. You coming in, you'll see, the goal is, right in that area, you're gonna see kids with baseball bats, helmets, ice creams, that's where they're gonna see it. They'll see a batting cage, and that's what it is. Not, we're a entertainment center. I'm okay with that. See a mini golf, see a batting cage. That's what, and I think, and the reason, again, for the fire review is, there is no batting cages anywhere in the neighborhood. I mean, they're desperately in need of them, especially for kids who want to, otherwise you gotta bring a parent to throw at baseball's eye, and if I got throw mine, I'll hit them, you know, so this machine is a lot more accurate than I am. And they can come down by themselves, and it's, you know, it'll be an additional to my business, but I think it will be a needed for Simsbury also. And, you know, I've looked at it, I've been there 20 years. I can make it so that you'll see only the best, you know, baseball. I mean, that's our goal. Because like I said, I have the mini golf right there too. So the idea was so that the batters just see, when they're looking at a ball here, they're not looking at a car go by right here. That's all they gotta see is some kind of green. If I could do it with bush, without the board, I would. I wouldn't even use that, because you don't need it. It's just a visual, that's all I was saying, just to make it look. But I don't wanna leave a board out there so you drive by and see a board, so put something brushed behind it. It's pretty simple.
I don't want to be redundant here,
Go
but
ahead.
I'm not trying to tell somebody who knows a lot about baseball cages
Yeah.
how to do baseball
Okay.
cages. I'm just trying to understand what the deal.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Mike,
I get it.
so that we know what we're approving
Exactly,
that's not on the drawing.
right.
Okay.
Is there any more from design review?
That was it, that's all, the only concern they had.
So,
And-
you said there's no lighting plan, so if there was future, he
They'd
would
come
need,
back to the commission
Okay.
Come back,
for
yeah.
approval.
so you just don't have that right now, at the moment? Okay.
And I may never need it, I don't, we'll see.
And just for, kind of get you a geographic location, will be 45 feet off the curb line. It's 25 feet off the property line, but the right-of-way is pretty expansive in this area of Route 10. So I mean, it's
Setback.
set back from the
Okay.
road. So
Hard
this,
to tell on this.
Yeah, no,
but
yeah.
it's far back,
It's hard, it's just really hard,
I
this is
know.
very small scale.
yeah.
so maybe that in addition to
That's
kind of,
actually very helpful.
And in addition to the berm, because I know exactly where the berm is,
Right.
so.
I guess my concern is the back of the board, because that's what you see from the road.
Right, but I think that design review has,
Yeah.
Well, they commented on the,
so I guess the question of the commission, would you be comfortable with the applicant working with staff for issuance of a zoning permit, developing the land screening plan, or would you like to see this in 2 weeks with a little more detail on how they're gonna do the vegetated screening of the area?
Well, if the front of that board facing the road was green, you'd be seeing the berm and then just green. You would,
well, that's what you didn't.
I'm sorry, let me put it, I'll paint it the color of the grass, whatever vegetation, the front will be that, so you're not gonna see it. I don't wanna look at it, so, you know, I don't want people just driving by looking at the board.
what do you think, are you comfortable?
Yeah, where's the proposed motion on this one?
I started to write on it, sorry.
There you go.
It does not include anything on the screening, because that
About
was.
vegetation, I kind of wrote it in there, that there is the berm, but that we could ask for administrative approval.
No, if you are not comfortable with this and feel that it's open-ended, you have every right, you still have time to act on this. You could delay this 2 weeks and the applicant could present more information to us. Or if you're confident with staff to work with them, we could see to that.
We have confidence in staff, it's just a matter of whether we approve something like that to go to, you know,
Yeah.
a full
Visual.
application.
Right.
Well, how you guys feel? Would that be okay with you if with a 2-week delay?
I mean, I understand, you know, your concerns, I would have to do that if you told me to. It's gonna take me time to order the machines, get them built. I'll be into the middle of my summer, and baseball will be, you know, kind of, my season's short. And remember, when we get to October, there's nothing there. It's just a short window of the summer. So, yeah, I'll do what you guys ask me to, but that's my only concern.
I guess if you're, approval by the zoning enforcement officer on the.
And design review is pretty clear on what they asked for. So how would we add to this, if you don't mind? So number 4, would we say
Incorporate.
condition is, or approval is,
Development of screening plan pursuant to design review recommendations. no zoning permit to be issued until plan is submitted to staff, if you're giving us that authority.
Approved by staff.
Approved by staff. We'll share it with you to make sure that you're kept in the loop on this one. If you're comfortable, we're not looking to push the envelope on this.
So the fourth condition is development of screening plan. And again, is it per you or per design review?
Per design review's recommendation.
And then, yeah.
That ties it together.
Landscaping plan to be approved by the zoning enforcement officer, though, right? Is that the right person?
That's
We
the right
have
person.
those.
We do. We can talk about it later.
Hired somebody.
Okay, I can try. I'm probably gonna not make it, so.
Okay, well, are you guys ready for a motion here?
Sure.
Yeah. Jackie?
Sure. Do we need to close the? or
It's
no?
not a public hearing, this
Okay.
is a,
So I would like to make a motion to approve application 19-8 of Lisa W. Foley, owner, for a site plan amendment for the addition of batting cages on the property located at 1603 Hot Meadow Street. The site plan amendment approval is subject to the following conditions. 1, an administrative zoning permit is required for the change in use. 2, on-site pre-construction meeting is required with the zoning enforcement officer prior to the start of any site work. 3, a lighting plan for the batting cages was not provided to or approved by the commission. Exterior lighting of the batting cages requires approval from the zoning commission. Number 4, development of the screening plan per design review. No zoning permit to be issued until it's been approved by the staff, and that would be a landscaping plan approval by the zoning enforcement officer.
we
Second?
have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Gary. All right, next one is application 1909. Ooh, I guess he's not back up because he had the public hearing already.
Yes, yes, back up. Yes.
Do we have any
It's for
discussion
action
on
on
this?
that item.
I don't, I think they're working with a very tight space and they've made it as safe as possible. And like I said, this has been going for a few years.
Are we ready to make a motion? Do we have any?
Here, I got a motion for you.
Mr. Chairman, you have a motion, but it should read, it's not a zoning permit, it would be site plan amendment is
Site
for
plan
the,
amendment.
is required. I apologize, we were just commenting on this. For the change of use.
You did that for me.
I did that for you, Kevin, you're right. So now you can call me on it later.
Okay,
Put it to the list.
ready to go?
Yes, I'll take a motion.
I offer the following motion to approve application 1909 of Louis N. George Esquire, agent BMG Properties LLC, owner for a special exception pursuant to Article 10, Section E5 of the Simsbury zoning regulations for a reduction in the number of required parking spaces on the property located at 566 Hot Meadow Street. Special exception is subject to the following condition. 1, a site plan amendment is required for change in use, in parenthesis, second floor apartment above the retail store, close parenthesis. End of motion.
Do we have a second?
Second?
By Jackie. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, the next order of business was application 1910, but I guess we don't need to take any action on this.
Mr. Chairman, I received revised drawings on this, working with the applicant, as I stated at the last meeting. Their revisions may not result in an expansion of the existing signage, therefore an application will not be required of the commission. I just received the revision to the revision this evening, so I haven't had time just to confirm that. So if this is not a expansion of signage and does not warrant an application from this commission, the application will be withdrawn at your next meeting.
Okay, so there's no action for us.
No
to take
actions
tonight.
asked.
Okay, next one, application 1911 of Clara Duperrin, agent, George Mercado's owner, for site plan amendment for changes in use of sign permits for the proposed business lighthouse design, and Claudia Carballo photography on the property located at 10 Jim Gallagher Way. That must be what all you guys do. All right, you want to make a presentation, your name and address?
Good evening, my name is Berenice Alango. This is Clara Alperon.
Okay, do you need spellings on that?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually
Write
get your
it.
name right after.
Okay, perfect. And this is Clara Carballo.
Yep.
Yep. So we're here to propose a change in use at 10 Jim Gallagher Way. Right now, it used to be a dentist's office, and we would like to change it for a retail store to house actually two businesses. In the first floor will be a small retail store, and in the second floor will be a photography studio.
So this is a change of use for both, and then combining the two spots there from what was there was professional office and medical office that was there previously. So that's the only reason why they're here. Also, they proposed new signage, which was reviewed and approved by the design review board. They're keeping the same color scheme as existing signage on the building, and have met the center code design standards for size for the freestanding sign. There'll be one set of signs that's attached on the southern elevation of the building along Jim Gallagher Way, another along the rear elevation of the building, which overlooks the communal lots and the unofficial drive behind it, both of which meet the code. They are investigating on which of the two freestanding signs for this property they want to put one of their signs on, but should it just be swapping out like to like, that will not come back to the commission. They just don't know which one of the two freestanding signs.
Right.
There's no signage proposed for the western face elevation, which as you're driving down
Right.
Jim Gallagher Boulevard, you see the big courtyard sign, mainly because the vegetation and trees that are in front of the building will block any signage. So they elected to put their signs on the building strategically where people could see them.
Sure.
Other than that, staff has developed as a staff report for you. There's no issues from a use standpoint from either of the uses in the sub zoning districts, and the signage meets their regs and received a favorable recommendation from the design review board. We just had one comment that administrative zoning permit is required for the change of use and signage. That was it.
Is that building not approved for all of these various uses? I thought it was, they're not approved for retail?
So there wasn't retail in this space, and because they're using first floor, second floor, kind of, even though they're two businesses, they're really using it together.
Yeah.
That's why it's before you. Otherwise, if there was a retail use there historically, and it was retail to retail, this kind of use would not go before the commission.
No, I thought there had been retail stores in there in the past.
Well,
On the
not,
other
yeah,
side.
not in that
The other
space.
side.
That was dentist for a long time.
Yeah, before the
Yeah.
dentist.
You say
I
no.
don't have a record.
To the left of it.
He has no record.
Yeah, kennel, what was that place in there a long time ago? They sold dog and
Yeah, there's been,
grooming
I
stuff.
thought there's been,
It's a branch of the store in West Hart. It was retail for sure.
yeah. I don't see the motion, so I'm not gonna make it.
Was there a draft motion on this one?
This should be in front of you.
And Joe's
Joe has
Joe's
it.
going to make it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I wish to place before the board a motion to approve application number 19-11 of Clara Duperron, agent, George Mercado's owner, for a site plan amendment for changes for use and sign permits for the proposed businesses Lighthouse Design and Claudia Carballo Photography on the property located at 10 Jim Gallagher Way. The site plan amendment approval is subject to the following condition. Number one, an administrative zoning permit is required for change in use and signage.
I will second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you so
Good luck.
much.
Thank you. Great.
All right. Okay, new business application 1912 of Barbara Foley and Kevin Dowd, the Ron Foley Foundation agents. For site plan amendment for a temporary liquor permit for a one-day event on a property located at 69 Hartford Road.
Good evening, my name is Kevin Dowd, I live at 51 Stoner Drive, West Hartford, Connecticut. I'm a volunteer for the Ron Foley Foundation. This year is going to be their 11th fundraiser. This will be the 10th time it's going to be held at Folly Farm. We're asking for a site plan amendment for a one-day liquor permit for the event. If you've attended the event before, we have about 500 guests. It's held on the same day as the Kentucky Derby, which this year is Saturday, May 4th. Beverages, food, raffles, a whole assortment, and typically raise about $300,000, which is then donated for pancreatic cancer research. To date, the Ron Foley Foundation has raised and donated over $2 million for pancreatic research.
Are there any changes in terms of the layout and the way you're gonna present
No,
this?
there are no changes as far as layout.
Okay. And the vendors, as I recall, are all the
Same
same vendors?
vendors as always, yes. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, are you aware that once we if this, assuming this is approved tonight, in the future, when you come back, as long as it's the same place,
I know.
the staff approve it, and you don't,
So I took over for Jim Eater, who had done this in prior years on kind of one page.
oh, yeah.
But I will say, office staff has been extremely helpful walking me through the process, so. Carrie's been very helpful.
Good. It'll be even easier in the future.
Yep.
So this application will accomplish that for next year?
Yep.
Okay,
this is
but that, if they're only going for approval, so it goes to the site, not to the full, to the foundation, right? So it's actually to the Folly Farm gets it.
So the way the regulation is written, actually, if the user were to change, they would have to come back before you guys for a site plan amendment. That's the way it was worded. I had to look it up today. But in their case, they've been doing this for 10 years, and I would anticipate that they'll continue going forward to do this. So they would just have to come in the future. They only do the one event per year. So next year, they would just come in for their administrative zoning permit and sign off from the zoning officer at the time.
Now, I'm thinking on behalf of Folly Farm though, because it's really Folly Farm that's getting the approval.
Right.
It's,
So could Folly Farm, do they have up to the 10 or 12 events that they can do?
technically, they could do up to 15.
Right,
Yep.
yeah.
However, it's not, so one thing that needs to be clarified, because I think there's some confusion, is the reason why the Ron Foley Foundation is able to do it is because they're a not-for-profit. Liquor control will only give temporary event permits for charitable organizations. So the farm itself is not a charitable organization. So while the location might be approved for that, if they come back, they would have to have another charitable organization that would be getting the temporary event permit.
Okay, but you, okay. Clear there, Bruce?
Perfectly clear.
Crystal.
I remember the discussion well.
All right, do we have a motion or any questions here? No questions, a motion? Yes.
I would like to make
Is there a motion in here?
There is.
I was gonna read it.
I thought you were doing it off the top of your head.
You can think that too. I would like to make a motion to approve application 19-12 of Barbara Foley and Kevin Dowd for site plan amendment in accordance with Article 10, Section H.6 of the Simsbury zoning regulations to grant a temporary liquor permit associated with a charitable event with the following conditions. 1, an administrative zoning compliance review application is required.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
And you can tell them that you've got accomplished so they never have to come back again.
Just don't
You did
change
such a-
it.
You did such a great job. All right, application 1913 of Stephen Hennessy, agent, E&AING, Simsbury Commons Limited Partnership owner, for a special exception pursuant to Article 10, Section H of the Simsbury zoning regs for cafe liquor permit at Apple Cinema on the property located at 502 Bushy Hill Road. Do we have anyone here?
Mr. Chairman, that's being advertised for a public hearing. It'll be at your next meeting, but because by statute, this is the meeting that's being received.
Okay.
The next application, same thing. It's another public hearing for your next meeting, but we wanted you to be aware of that because they're advertised for your next meeting.
Yep, okay, so
So there's no
1913 and
action
1914 are...
Of the commission on either of those items, but so you're aware that those public hearings, those two items are set for public hearing for your next meeting.
Great.
Great. What about application 1915?
So this application was reviewed by Design Review this evening, and also you have a staff report from Robin Newton on this matter. They withdrew the sign proposed that's labeled D on the proposal because that would trigger an application to modify the unified sign plan for what's out there. This would be additional signage than what exists now or what's part of the approved plan. So what you have is just signage labeled C as the only thing they're pursuing, which is a replacement, really. The reason why we brought that before you is just to show you also the lighting plan there, because it's a reverse halo lit sign, and just, we'd prefer that the commission bless this signage over there. Design Review set a favorable recommendation only for sign number labeled C, since D was withdrawn at Design Review.
And this is similar to what's out there.
It's similar to what's out there, but like I said, because we've had issues with some of the signs in this plaza in the
Got it.
past, that having lighting out there, and we've required others to come in for change of signage, that's why it's here before you. It meets that, letter C meets the design of the unified sign plan. It's D that.
Well, it doesn't meet, if you guys remember, Hoyt's had like
I'm
the
sorry.
global
Yep.
kind of
Yep.
very
That's-
different.
Yeah.
So the only reason why we told them that they had to come before you, because it was a substantial change from what was there originally. Obviously, it wasn't a flat wall sign that you're kind of looking at here, rectangular in shape. It had its own kind of unique design to
Yep.
it. We did give administrative permits for a replacement of a wall sign
I was gonna ask you.
on the
Okay.
other side. Yep, and
they'll
so
get that.
and met administrative sign-offs for them to replace the monument signs
Oh, great.
that were out there, because those were like for like same size, same location. This was a little bit different, obviously, because of the design that Hoyt's had out there.
Sure.
So how was this one lit?
Reverse halo lit, which is allowed.
Yeah.
So, and maybe for the record, because the manager of Apple Cinemas is here, just so that we acknowledge it. Sorry.
Well, I'm not understanding the distinction being made between the lettering. We're talking about a sign that says Apple Cinemas and it has an icon next to it. This is image C. Where is the lighting to illuminate that sign? Those
Behind.
letters.
Behind it. So it's
It was
backlit.
backlit.
It's backlit.
Yeah.
And why is that? The one that was there was not backlit. Is that what you're saying? And now DRB was in favor of
I don't know
approving
if the
a
Hoyt sign
backlit
was
sign?
backlit or not.
That's a good question.
It's a good question. I actually don't know if the Hoyt sign was backlit. This was triggered because the sign is substantially different than what the Hoyt sign looked like, and they don't have in their application what the previous sign looked like, but it is substantially different, which is what triggered your
Yeah,
review.
but I thought our regulations were quite plain that we don't approve backlit signs.
No, backlit.
No, backlit we do.
Oh,
Internally lit, we do
Internally
not.
lit, yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
No, this does meet our
This
This
regs.
one is okay.
Yep.
This is the only one.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, are we ready for a motion here?
Sure.
I'm just making clear that it's only C, not C.
Who's just gonna do it?
So I actually did not prepare a motion for you guys because originally with the
Changed.
other sign allowed it, you wouldn't have been able to act on it as a special exception. But you can just do, traditional motion of approving sign C. I think that's, make sure we have the right one.
See,
Yep, approval of sign C as proposed and shown on the plans with an administrative zoning permit.
okay, somebody want to make that motion?
You just did it for it.
Yeah, here, let me do it. I offer a motion to approve, application 1915 from ENA/ING Simsbury Commons LP for, installation at the entrance of the movie theaters at the address of 498 to 540 Bush Hill Road. The approved signage is described as an entrance-mounted dimensional halo LED illuminated Apple logo with dimensional Apple Cinemas LED illuminated channel letters with halo, as presented in the attachment and identified as image C. In addition, there needs to be an administrative approval before installation takes place.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good job, Bruce.
Okay, you got your sign. I'll see you back for the liquor permit. Yep, then we're actually up to 1916. Application of First Jansen, agent, GFP Drake Hill LLC, owner for site plan amendment for a temporary liquor permit for property located at 720 Hot Meadow Street.
So, Mr. Chairman, this was filed Friday. After the agenda was filed, it still was,
We did?
yeah. This was filed Friday after the agenda was filed, however, it was filed in a timely manner pursuant to state statute, so you're receiving this application tonight. It's for a temporary liquor permit for an event scheduled for the date. 25th of April 2019 to be held at their new location in the Cannon Building. This is pretty straightforward. They have had permits in the past. They had a event over at Highcroft, you may remember a while ago. No issues with that. Staff fully supports the granting of this approval. And this would mean now that should they want to have their scholarship fundraiser at their offices instead of an off-site location in the future, they will not have to come back to the commission. But just like if they have any yearly events, social events they want to have at this new location pursuant to the new regs.
This does not clearly delineate where the event can be held. Does it include the patio, for example?
So, yeah, so when you look at what was provided, their intention is to have it on the patio.
Okay, but we don't have a site plan.
You should, that was photocopied and handed to you guys at the beginning.
Sure.
It wasn't as part of the package because it had come in late on Friday.
It's Exhibit A.
So their intention is to have the event on the patio, weather permitting. If obviously it's raining out, it will go indoors. So they'll have to indicate that on their temporary permit that they apply for the state. They'll have to show both locations.
Here we go.
I got it online too, so I can still read it.
All right, so it's both indoors and outdoors is the designated space.
I remember
What is occupied, there's not gonna be a whole lot of room for inside.
Right. And under the regs, if we do have an issue with this event, staff has the right to send any future events back to the commission for site plan approval. So, but like I said, they've already went through this commission for the Highcroft one, which there was no incidents or concerns with that.
Okay, any questions for, we have the president here from you.
Yeah.
No.
No? Okay, do we have a motion?
Yes, I can make a motion.
Good, I'll take it.
I would like to make a motion to approve application 19-16 of Ferg Jansen for a site plan amendment in accordance with Article 10, Section H.6 of the Simsbury zoning regulations to grant a temporary liquor permit associated with a temporary event with the following conditions. An administrative zoning compliance review application is required.
Okay, a second?
I'll second.
Joe, second. All in favor?
I
Aye.
2 down today.
That's why he hung around. Bye, Lou.
See, do we have any other correspondence?
So, you guys had in your packet from a while ago, correspondence from Attorney Donahue regarding, the ridge at Talcott Mountain. If you guys remember, about a month ago, they had come in and we had talked about, providing certificate of occupancies for, I think it's 18 units, originally 4 buildings. That hasn't come to fruition yet. We've been working out bonding, and then they didn't need the certificate of occupancies when it was anticipated. So that actually provided a little bit more time to continue working on the performance bond that was discussed at that meeting. The commission was kind of, if you guys remember, questionable as to the performance bond and had asked staff to come up with some more specific verbiage regarding that. So today, this afternoon, we were able to get a spreadsheet that shows the site improvement balance to date, like as of today's date, what needs to be finished. Unfortunately, because it was handed in via email this afternoon, the engineering department hasn't got a chance to look at it. But I did provide the commission down at the bottom kind of a recommendation if they're comfortable with that. Working with that bond estimate and a final determination to be made by the town engineer's office, essentially recommending that the commission consider accepting the bond of the submitted estimate with final determination of the amount being made by the town engineer's office for the issuance of certificate of zoning compliances for buildings as they're completed on the site. In addition, as substantial progress is made on those site improvements, that staff can come back and present to the commission for approval reductions to the bonds when deemed appropriate.
That seems fair.
Okay, do we have, you want to make any comments, DJ?
We're very pleased
They
with
did
the
it.
town staff on this. That's where it is, and we'd be very pleased if you would grant that. We are ready to have someone move in April 1st. The first 18 would be authorized by this bond as subject to fire and safety and building department approval.
Have questions for him?
I think it's clear.
Okay.
Clear enough.
We have a motion.
Do you want to take it?
I can try. I would.
Last paragraph there.
Yes, I would like to place before the commission the following motion, that the commission accept the bond of the submitted estimate with final determination of the amount being made by the town engineer's office for the issuance of certificates of zoning compliance. In addition, as substantial progress is made on the site improvements, staff may present to the commission or should present to the commission for approval of reductions to the bond when deemed appropriate.
Okay, a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done.
Yep.
Okay, any other correspondence? Then we are ready to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Good job. That's a